Wow. That sucks, dude. You alright?
Nope. Well, we don't know what's caused it to stop.
And
I'm looking at the CPU usage. The CPU usage was at 100% for some reason.
wow.
So, I mean, basically what had happened, the processor in the computer overheated.
So there's no way we can just leave off where we...
And not only that, the tablet died too. So all of the widgets and stuff that I had.
Why don't we film something and we put it on Facebook? On YouTube and Facebook real quick. Are we able to do that? Or even with our phone?
Let's see.
How many more did we have to get through?
Not many, but there were the.
We did get the big ones.
No, that's where we were getting to
plane
the
ride
big ones.
Yeah, because you led to the better ones.
Yeah.
Like the Bruiser Brody incident. The plane ride from hell.
Sid Vicious and arm stabbing.
Oh yeah.
Bruiser Brody, the death of Owen Hart, Benoit,
live now. Imagine if we've been live this whole time.
No, it's saying we're live.
We're live, and we're back. All right.
That was.
So you guys might have heard what we were saying behind the scenes that we thought we were, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Glad I didn't get naked. All right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I'm just trying.
Yeah, me too, Joey.
Yeah, man, that would have been bad. So, continue where you left. Oh, so we were talking about drug use in the pro wrestling business. So real quick, just want to say this: Roddy Piper had a documentary years back on 60 Minutes, and he was talking about the drug use in wrestling. You had guys that would take stuff to help them wake up. You would have stuff for pain they would take. They would drink alcohol on top of it after they would finish a match. They'd go out with the boys, go to the nearest bar, get hammered. They would take stuff to help them sleep. If there were guys that were trying to make themselves bigger, they would be taking steroids on top of that, mixing all this stuff. Then you look at all the wrestlers who have passed young age, which Bill will probably mention here in a second. But, I mean, you got to think about it. That's where that generation, a lot of them, you had some guys that knew when to stop and some that did not. And unfortunately,
even the ones that stopped, Eddie Guerrero stopped. He was 30
that
years
is true.
old,
I do. You know? Eddie did stop, but Eddie, the damage was already done.
Right. You got guys like Scott Hall, Jake Snake, who they're well documented their drug addiction issues, but they were able to overcome them. But like you
everybody's body's different.
There was the ones that didn't. Brian Pillman,
yeah. And you know what? Pillman, I will say this, Brian Pillman, it's a shame we did not get to see him excel in WWE because I think he would have been a tremendous star in WWE. Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
You know, his run really didn't get going. It was because of injuries and whatnot, and then unfortunately he passed on. So.
Yeah. Lance Cade. He died. And he died at one of the worst times for WWE, too, to have with all this stuff, kind of things, is in the midst of Linda McMahon's campaign for state senator.
That's right. You were telling me that.
You know, that brought a lot of unwanted heat and controversy and, stuff to the issues.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. They would take, stuff for pain. They'd take stuff to go to sleep. They'd take stuff to wake up. The guys who were, they were doing lines of coke
right before they go out the curtain.
Ultimate Warrior, would do lines of coke right before he come running out.
And then you wonder how he should. Probably all, I mean, look, we're just going off of what has been already documented. You can find this stuff online. You guys can sit there probably like, well, how the hell do these three guys know that? It's on there, folks.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you, all my facts, all my information, it's all stuff that I got from, offline. Watching interviews with people, documentaries on stuff. Just reading stuff online.
Just realize
the
how
different
much
dirt sheets.
Right.
How much we watch this stuff.
Right. Our show isn't so much about what we bring to the table, with comedy and spitballing, just our opinions. A lot of our stuff is generated off of fact. And it is not, speculated fact. It's fact. This is direct from the words of the people that lived it. So our show, and this is what we want to reiterate with everybody, is that we actually do our homework and we live the fan lifestyle. We are doing things that we're getting all of the information.
I'll show you right here. I have,
exactly
pages of notes and information and stuff that I've, just read up on and studied and watched. And a lot of these videos that I get, the things that I get this stuff from, I will post these things in Beyond the Squared Circle.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, and a lot of these things that we're going to talk about tonight, I will post these videos and the things that I got from, I'll post them to the Squared Circle
which
page.
is cool because
so you can, what we're talking about, you can go and watch and see and hear some of the stuff for yourself.
Because and being one of his friends, I know that for a fact, because it's like, Bill will love to tell you about it, but then he's like, no, I want you to watch it. And he will send it to me, and I will look through it, and I'm like, wow, man, you're not full of shit.
Exactly, yeah.
It's true. He's like, I'm not full of shit, damn it, watch the video.
Yeah, there's things that I've come up with, that you were like, well, I didn't know that, and you're
tonight,
super wrestle fan.
Tonight there's been stuff you said that I didn't know. I didn't know about the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes, but continue, sir.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we are actually at the 10:31 mark. So, do you want to go ahead and move forward with this because of our technical difficulties, or did you want to pick this up on a later segment?
I say we just go forward since we're in the moment, man.
Sure.
What the hell?
Why not?
We talked about 2 hours before. We actually have content to fill up more time, so let's do it.
Let's do it. It'll be a 2-parter episode. There we go.
Which, by the way, I just want to go ahead and say to everybody that actually tuned back into the second half, we are experiencing technical difficulties with some of our hardware and software, with extended computer usage and stuff like that. So just please bear with us while we continue to grow. Another thing, too, before we head into that, I want to go ahead and give a little bit of a shout-out to some people that we just spoke to recently. Florida Geek Scene.
Yes. Yes.
You guys are amazing. I've read some of your blogs on there. You guys are awesome.
Scott Schlazer, Nick Slade.
Yep, you guys, we're going to have them as...
Definitely tune in.
You definitely go to 321screw.com. You'll see their link on our page soon. And you'll be able to go to see their site. Their site is amazing.
Florida Geek Scene. Definitely check it out. Scott is also, not only does he run this Florida Geek Scene, but he's also the owner and promoter for the Claremont Comic Con, which actually won't be in Claremont now. Probably he's looking for a new venue. But
right, exactly. And we have talked about possibly doing a live show at one of his events. So
I would be so down for that.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of super big news because not only is he's a big wrestling fan, obviously, but also our other passion is comic books, superheroes, that kind of stuff. And he also owns a big over in Ocoee, a big comic book shop.
Retro games too, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Retro games.
You can
I'll be down. I'll be there to shop. Give me a discount.
Yeah. And you want to go ahead and plug our other groups that we have? I mean, we've got the horror group, Lurking Shadows. We've got the gosh, the comic book one.
Oh yeah, Superheroes Unlimited. That's also another that's another group that I own and run, and these guys are admins for me on that one as well.
I know, man.
Superheroes Unlimited.
Yeah, so
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Are you a foodie? I'm part of it. We're part of a.
What are you
eating group here?
Right
one
on.
of mine started Titusville.
But now, let's get on track.
We're all friends of the crew.
Yes. And one last thing before we get back. Straight out of Philly, giving you guys some much more love.
Still have not eaten. How many times have you guys gone without me? Straight up.
As often as possible.
Not happening.
Oh yeah.
All right.
It's they got
amazing food.
Nobody wants to go with me.
Their Philly fries, dude.
Oh yeah. Good stuff.
Mamma mia.
So
all right, continue.
Another topic on here with the controversies has been the multiple accusations of sexual misconduct about the WWE and Vince McMahon. For instance, Sable, yeah. Remember,
it was Sable.
Nicole Bass, with her charges against supposedly the Brooklyn Brawler. Yeah, pinned her up against the wall and groped her breast and was grinding against her, and so yeah, there was those accusations.
For those of you who don't know, he's also been Doink the Clown once before.
Hulk Hogan sex tape, of him with Bubba the Love Sponge.
But you know what?
He was unaware that Bubba Love Sponge had cameras in his bedroom and filmed the whole thing.
But you know what? He didn't get as much crap for the content of the video as to what he said on the video. Right. But we're not going to touch that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Vince McMahon was accused of sexual misconduct by a employee of a tanning salon in Boca Raton, Florida, in 2006.
Yeah.
So there was Batista and Melina. That was a little bit of a controversial thing because Batista was still married at the time. Melina was dating Johnny Nitro.
Yeah. Which and that's still stuff that's prevalent today in the wrestling world because right now you've got a similar situation with Carmella and with Corey Graves. Corey Graves was still married whenever him and Carmella started seeing each other.
Yeah. And then there was something what they referred to as the Ring Boy scandal, which involved the Mel Phillips, Terry Garvin. Mel Phillips was a ring announcer, and Terry Garvin he wasn't a wrestler. He just sort of worked for it. But they were gay. They were friends with Pat Patterson, who is openly gay and has never denied that. But Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin, Mel Phillips was fired. Terry Garvin resigned as a result of this. Them sexual advances and misconduct involving young men. Guys who would come in and help set up the ring and stuff before shows, after shows, and whatnot. Pat Patterson was actually fired at the time, not so much because of accusations against him, excuse me, but because of his friendship, and his relationship with Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin. He was kind of
an accessory.
Yeah, an accessory, guilt by association kind of thing. But as we all know, Pat Patterson come back. And he's with the company now, as far as I know.
He's still in.
Vince McMahon's, cronies he was.
He's actually the godfather to Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah. So there was that.
Fun little fact.
This was I found was an interesting one, and Joey didn't know about this.
No, I did not.
Until he got brought up. The Sid Vicious stabbing of Arn Anderson.
I mean, this was called Psycho Sid at one point.
In 1993, during a WCW UK tour. After a night of drinking and hanging out, Sid and Arn Anderson, they got into an argument. Sid at the time was the #1 contender for the world title, and he was boasting and claiming and carrying on about how he was the future of the business, and guys like Flair and Arn needed to recognize that and recognize that their time at the top has passed, and they need to step aside to let guys like him come in and shine. Well, Arn Anderson being Arn Anderson,
He had a temper though.
Arn Anderson was not one. He was.
You didn't mess with him.
I mean, there's a reason they called him the Enforcer. I mean, he was a no nonsense guy, man, and he didn't put up with shit. Well, they got into it. They got into a scuffle, a fight. It got broken up. Arn Anderson walked away, went to another part of the locker room, whatever. Sid followed him, went in, and they started fighting again. To which point Sid Vicious grabbed a pair of scissors, and he stabbed and cut Arn Anderson like 20 times.
Yeah.
Damn. Arn Anderson ended up in hospital, and this resulted in Sid Vicious being fired. So I guess he wasn't the future.
Where was this? What company at the time?
WCW. It was on a UK tour in '93.
Yep.
Wow.
There's another talking about altercations involving was Shawn Michaels assaulted by Marines.
This one's funny.
This was while at a bar in Syracuse, New York. He was with Sean Waltman, X-Pac, and Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. And they were in a bar and they drinking, doing drugs, And Shawn Michaels was hitting on these girls there who were with their boyfriends who were Marines, and they took offense to it. Well, and they were leaving, and these guys, a bunch of these guys come pulling up, come running up to the car, and they start assaulting Shawn Michaels and pulled him out of the car and was beating the shit out of him. Sean Waltman jumped out. He got involved. He tried to help. Davey Boy Smith. They were in a little 2-door car. Because there was some girl after the bar was giving them a ride. So it was a 2-door car. Davey Boy Smith's a big guy. He was in the back seat in the middle. So it took him a minute to get up, but he got involved in that. So they were all fighting, and when the bouncer come out, he had a gun. The Marine guys took off, but it resulted in Shawn Michaels ended up in the hospital. From his injuries, he spent the night there. His face was all swollen up. One of his eyelids was nearly torn off. They had to, kind of stitch it back together. So again, but Shawn Michaels talks about how he doesn't really remember a whole lot of it because they were drinking, they were doing pills, and they were so messed up. They didn't know what the hell was going on.
They were having good times, and it ended up badly.
Oh yeah, it was.
So what are you gonna do?
It was crazy. Again, more drug related stuff was the WWE steroid scandal in 1994. That was a big deal, man. That was the federal government was trying to bring charges up and prosecute. There was a lot of wrestlers that were named involved in Hogan. Yeah, Hogan testified, and McMahon thought Hogan was gonna try to bury him, but he didn't. So, which McMahon was thankful for that.
Oh yeah, he beat the U.S. government. So he did.
If you were talking about the drugs, just a few other little things. When we were talking about like Eddie Guerrero. One of the things with Eddie with his drug addictions is he was in an accident. He had a Trans Am and he was messed up, and he crashed and nearly died. And the doctors told him you need to take a year off, to heal and get well. And
this was
against their advice. No, this was before.
Oh, okay.
Against their advice, Eddie didn't take the time off. He just took painkillers as an alternative, which led to more to his addiction issues.
Oh, I gotcha.
But Eddie, he did eventually get clean and was dedicated to that. In fact, when Eddie was the champion, when he lost the title to JBL, that was Eddie's decision because he was afraid that the pressure of being the champ would jeopardize his sobriety. So it was agreed to lose the title to JBL.
Right.
Scott Hall.
I have respect for him.
Who, it's all, Scott Hall, his drug problems and alcohol issues go back a long time. One of the big things they feel was a catalyst for his issues was in 1983, January 15th of 83, he was working in Orlando at a bar as a bouncer. And he got into a physical altercation with another guy outside. The guy pulled a gun. During the struggle, a gun went off and the guy was killed. Hall was charged with second-degree murder, but the case was thrown out because of a lack of evidence. But a lot of people feel that this incident led to Hall's substance abuse troubles as a way of coping, because he didn't seek the professional help that people told him you should probably talk to somebody, because that's, you know, I mean, you get into a fight that results in someone's death, you know, that can be
that's traumatizing.
a traumatizing thing
that's
on
not
you. You know, it's to weigh heavy on your mind.
That's not.
He turned to drugs as an alternative instead of seeking professional help.
Right.
Was this before he got into wrestling?
I'll probably
before well, 83. So
after the show.
And as of 2011, now this was, you know, a while back, but as of 2011, Hall had attended 10 rehabs, WWE sponsored rehabs, and at the time, and probably still now, the WWE has spent more money on Scott Hall's recovery than anyone else in the company ever.
Right.
During this time, he totaled 8 Cadillacs while intoxicated.
He was bad.
And he was confined to a wheelchair at one point until he reached out to an old friend, DDP, who, with the help of another very well documented, you know, guy with an addiction problem, Jake the Snake Roberts. Those two guys helped Scott Hall and kind of got him back on track. You know, where he is, you know, he's sober now to this day, and you see like recent pictures of him. He's in great shape, you know.
But you know, speaking of Scott Hall, he was actually at NXT last night.
Him and Kevin Nash both,
Kevin Nash.
Scott Hall looks like he's in great shape now.
So you know what that says about Scott Hall? You know what you just said, right? You know where he did all that stuff, he killed a guy. You know. He is loyal to his Cadillacs. That's what it says about Scott.
That's what I took away from his whole story was
he loves Cadillacs. Huh.
Yeah.
And drugs.
And
alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, did.
He did. He did. Well, he probably still loves Cadillacs, though.
Yeah, probably
I'm sure he does.
So
what's the next one?
Here's what we got. Here's another one. I'm going to let you kind of take this one.
The plane ride?
This is the Lita Edge and Matt Hardy love triangle.
I thought you were going to give me the plane ride, but I still like this other one. Okay, so Matt Hardy was dating Lita for probably about 4 years, maybe, give or take.
During their whole Team Extreme days.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, Edge and Christian, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, the Dudleys, they were all had a close bond. They were all friends because...
And they also had great feuds.
They did, and that was the reason.
They were good friends, all
they innovated the TLC. They were innovators for the TLC match that we see every year. But I guess what happened, Matt Hardy was injured. He was, you know, he was off on the road. He was home. Lita was on the road with Edge. They hooked up, and here's Edge, who is Adam Copeland. That's his real name. Well, they were doing the nasty, and
I think it started out though as a. Didn't it start out as a play? You know what I mean? As like a part of the show.
No. They were messing around before they put it in the show.
Yes.
So what happened was,
I thought it was a similar incident, like a Triple H and Stephanie, where they were, you know, just kind of faking it. But
let me get this one out real quick so we can get to that next one. But Lita and Edge, they fell for each other. Meanwhile, she's still living with Matt Hardy, and so Matt Hardy saw some text messages, and that's how he found out. And so Matt Hardy they broke up, and Matt Hardy wanted to go public with it, and he was going AWOL with it in WWE. WWE fired him.
Yeah.
Fired him because they, well, one, I know why. If it would have caused problems for Edge, which I love Edge. Edge was a phenomenal superstar, one of my favorite of all time, but they had to protect their investment, in my opinion.
This is the first time someone has been fired because of a love triangle, because that's why China was fired.
Yes.
Was to protect the Stephanie Triple H relationship.
But let's not go there right now.
It's not on my list.
Right, it's not on the list. It's not on the list.
You're going to be on the list.
It's my list, so if I want to add something, I can.
I'm sorry. So, to make long story short, okay, so Matt Hardy, well, internet geeks, saved Matt Hardy's career, because once it became public, there was even an episode where Matt Hardy called into a show called Bite This that WWE used to do. It was an internet show. Matt Hardy, they said, you know what, let him talk. He talked, he was going off on Amy Dumas, which is her name in real life, Lita. And, you know, they're using each other's real names when they're talking to each other, you know. And so it eventually became that when Edge and Lita started dating, Vince said, hey, you know what, let's use this angle. Or whatever writers. So they used the, I'm glad you guys are very interested. So they used the angle, and you know, you would hear fans just chanting Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy.
Yep.
So eventually WWE gave Matt Hardy a call. They gave him his job back. The fences were mended, and
the rest is history.
And the rest is history. And go ahead, Bill, take the show.
So, moving on. I know you want to get to this. You're going to want to talk about this one.
Well, we got to
go ahead and take
through
it.
This,
it's the plane ride from hell.
The plane ride from hell.
You've been waiting for this one.
All right, let me just say, so this plane ride from hell, they were coming from the UK. They had a show, it was for Rebellion, or either, they had another show that they would do, but it was yearly. They would go there on tour for like a pay-per-view event for Just Over There. Well, this was on their way back, coming back, so all of them are hammered. We're talking Scott Hall, Kevin Nash.
About a big plane
Hulk
full
Hogan,
of wrestlers.
Hulk Hogan. I think Hogan was on there. Ric Flair was on there, definitely, because he was running around in his robe going, woo, woo, to all the stewardess.
Naked, and just wearing his Nature Boy robe.
And I think you were the one that said it was noted that he probably slapped a woman in the face with his ding-a-ling. Yeah. So, there was them.
Goldust and Scott Hall were also making sexual advances to the women and stewardess and stuff.
Yes, X-Pac was. Oh, here's one that we haven't talked about that X-Pac did, which I have to talk about. He decided to become a legend on that flight because Michael P.S. Hayes was sleeping, and you know Michael P.S. Hayes, he has always got that long ponytail, you know. So X-Pac always, Sean Waltman was just like, you know, this guy talks a lot of shit, and here he is sleeping. I'm gonna mess with him. I'm gonna cut his ponytail off. He said, no, you won't. Try me. So, give me a pair of scissors. X-Pac grabs a pair of scissors, and everybody's like, he just grabs that ponytail, and he cuts it off. And then Michael Hayes wakes up and is all, and then all of a sudden he said, I'm holding up that hair, and he said everybody on the plane was cheering him. And Jerry the King Lawler egged Sean Waltman on to do it. And everybody's like, he did it! So, mind you, while this is going on, Brock Lesnar is getting in a fist fight with Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. By the way, all this is going on in 2002. Okay, so at this time, WWE had already bought out WCW, so that's why there was so much talent on one plane.
Yeah.
I mean, you had all this going on. The emergency exit door almost busted open because of it, which could have killed everybody.
Yeah, Kurt Hennig and Brock Lesnar got into a drunken argument over who the better wrestler was.
And
this plane ride from hell led to the firing of Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was because Scott Hall showed up drunk to a show.
That was WCW, I think. WWE, he was fired because of this plane ride.
Well, I don't know, but it was indeed one hell of a plane ride. And you know, Triple H didn't mess around with anything. He was the good old boy. You know, he's probably just sitting there like, oh, geez, this is gonna end bad. Yeah. This is gonna end bad.
These last few ones that we have here are they're the darker of the controversies. The first one being the death of Owen Hart. This was at the Over the Edge pay-per-view. Owen, who was at the time he was doing his Blue Blazer gimmick, this superhero character, and he was gonna face the Godfather for the Intercontinental title. And he was supposed to come into the ring from up in the rafters, you know, dropping down a la Sting WCW kind of days.
Flying down like this with his
Right,
cape.
and it was supposed to be like a little comedic kind of thing because he was supposed to get like almost all the way down, and the rigging was supposed to like stick, and then like let release, and kind of he was gonna fall the last little bit, down. But there was an issue with the rigging not holding his weight, and it failed, and he fell 70 feet. Landing on a turnbuckle, on his chest on a turnbuckle.
Cracking his sternum.
And, me and my friends were watching that pay-per-view live at the time because we thought it was
an angle.
We thought it was an angle. We thought they were doing, okay, this is part of the show. And then, Jim Ross started saying,
everything goes black.
This is not part of the show. They weren't showing the ring. They were only showing the crowd.
And the announcers.
And then the announcers. And then Jerry Lawler comes over and he sits down next to JR, and you could see on his face, and he even says, it's not good. It's not good. And Owen Hart was rushed to the hospital. And an hour later, he died. And a lot of people question this move because this happened in the middle of the pay-per-view. WWE decided to continue with the show.
They did,
before the show was over is when they announced before that pay-per-view was over that Owen Hart had passed away.
I have seen documentaries real quick on this. They did, however, ask, if you do not feel like competing tonight, you do not have to.
Right, but there's a lot of people who feel the show should
go on because that's what.
No, they felt the show should have.
Some felt that the show should go on because that's what Owen would have wanted. But, I've heard that too.
Yeah, but 6 to 1, half dozen the other.
No, I got you. I'm just saying.
The next one on my list is was the murder of Bruiser Brody. I don't know if a lot of people. This is kind of older school. You remember,
but NWA days.
Yeah, Bruiser Brody. He was a big deal. He was like one of the top guys in this in the promotion that they were in, and this was at the venue. There was a show that was happening, and it was before the match. They were in Bayamon, Puerto Rico, and the promoter, whose name was Jose Huerta Gonzalez, he had asked Bruiser Brody to speak to him. He asked me to talk to him, and they go back to the shower areas to where they had this discussion, the two of them. And I guess there was a heated exchange, between the two. And Tony Atlas, come running back there because he heard something, to find Bruiser Brody, hunched over holding the stomach, and Gonzalez standing there holding the bloody knife.
Yeah. I will tell you, if you look on YouTube and you find the Tony Atlas interview on what happened to Bruiser Brody, it's a long video, but it's so very interesting.
Yeah.
If you're any kind of a wrestling fan, to sit there and listen to somebody that had first-hand knowledge of what happened in that particular instance.
He was the closest one, the first one to come running. Right after it happened, Bruiser was still alive,
And one of the things that I took away from that, is that Bruiser Brody came in and saw Tony Atlas drawing. And he asked him if he could draw his son for him. But Bruiser Brody asked Tony Atlas if he can draw his son. And he took out the picture of his son. Well, whenever he went into the back area and he came back,
he was going to show him the photo.
He was going to show him the photo, and that's whenever he saw him hunched over. And Tony Atlas, not the drawing, but the actual photo.
Oh, the photo. Okay.
So he whenever he went to the hospital and he saw Bruiser Brody, he still had the picture of his son, the bloody picture of his son in his hand whenever he died. Which then, from that particular point, he went back to the hotel from the hospital, and he was ushered out of the hotel. Was told not to go back to his room, that they've already packed up his stuff and he's gone. So they told him to go ahead and grab a plane and get out of Puerto Rico now because they were looking for him.
Yeah. And they never went back to testify. Gonzalez was initially charged with first-degree murder.
He never
But
was.
he was charged at first. It was later dropped to I think, manslaughter or whatever. And then he was found not guilty of that because for lack of evidence. Like I said, Tony Atlas and these guys took off. They never went back to testify. The murder weapon was never found. It mysteriously disappeared.
And Carlos Colon, if you know the last name Colon, you'll know Carlito Colon.
Carlito,
Epico. Was it
Hunico.
So, I mean, these are guys that are still wrestling today in different promotions. I mean, you've got Epico and Hunico that was part of the WWE for a while.
Right.
Up until recently, I guess.
They worked as a tag team.
And you remember Carlito with big hair, always come out eating the apples?
Yep.
I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a big deal because Bruiser Brody, like I said, Bruiser Brody was.
God, this show's been a real damper.
Bruiser Brody was like I said, he was a big deal. You know, he was, man. Yeah, he was a big guy. You know, he was this huge guy, but you know,
him and Abdullah the Butcher had a great rivalry, right?
They're Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Another one was the murder of Dino Bravo. I don't know if you guys remember Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo wrestled for the WWF from 85 to 92. He was part of Johnny Valiant's stable with Greg Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake. In fact, you talked on one of your days this day in, and you talked about the Dream Team.
Yes.
Of Brutus Beefcake, Greg Hammer Valentine. Brutus Beefcake was kicked out of Dream Team, and Dino Bravo was the one who replaced him with Greg Hammer Valentine. They were the new Dream Team.
Okay.
But Dino Bravo, he was Canadian, you know, big, huge, muscular guy. He dyed with blonde hair. He had ties. There was the link to organized crime. He was the nephew by marriage to a Montreal crime boss, Vic Catroni. There was things he was involved in. There was a big thing involving cigarettes. You know, the smuggling of cigarettes and stuff like that. That's what it started. And then other people approached him about, well, you know what? While you're doing that, why don't you do this? So they got drugged, you know, so.
Right.
But, to this day, his murder's still unsolved. But he was found by his wife
and
daughter when they come home. He was found sitting in the chair in his living room. He was watching a hockey game. He was shot. This was March 10th of 93. He was shot 17 times.
Yeah.
7 times to the head and 10 to the torso. That's not just, a robbery. Someone come in, they were robbing.
No,
they don't expect someone to... Because there was no struggle. There was no forced entry.
Planned assassination.
Whoever killed him, he let them in.
Yeah.
He knew them and he trusted them. He let them in because he's sitting in his chair and he was just shot 17 times while sitting right there in his chair.
Yep.
I mean, you shoot someone 7 times in the head, then 10 times in the torso, chest, stomach area. Yeah, that's not, that's not just a random thing. That was
right.
He was executed.
Right.
Like I said, it's still unsolved to this day. So
the next one.
Then the other one was again another dark subject is Jimmy Snuka, who was accused of murdering his girlfriend Nancy Argentino back in 1983. However, Snuka wasn't brought up on charges for this until 2015, over 30 years later.
Yeah.
His girlfriend Nancy, she had died from a head trauma that included a fractured skull.
Right.
Now, Snuka's story changed multiple times as to how it happened. They were horsing around. She fell and hit her head
on a bathroom
sink. Or then it was she fell and hit her head on the road. Or, it's a concrete sidewalk.
Like a curb.
And there was a few different things. It was like, but there was never enough evidence
to pinpoint
to say anything. Like you said, 30 plus years later, he's finally brought up on charges. But at that time, because of his wrestling career and the head injuries that he had received, he was beginning to suffer from dementia and stuff like that. And it was determined, it says here in 2016, the charges were dropped because it was determined that he was incompetent and couldn't stand trial because of these injuries. And then he died, not too long after.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I know, man.
And then, of course, we're going to end it with the biggest of
The
the
controversies
controversies
of all time.
wrestling. Probably
Of all
even
time.
even bigger than the Bruiser Brody.
Even bigger than the Hogan
Bro,
Six scandal.
yeah, all of it.
Yep.
You know, bigger than Mae Young birthing a hand.
Before we get into that, there was one more that we skipped over that I wanted to touch on real quick, and it kind of ties into the whole drugs things. But here, not even 5-10 years ago, Booker T was fired because of a drug scandal that was based out of Florida. There was
he vehemently denied it.
Yes. And there was
I
a
didn't hear
bunch
about
of
this.
wrestlers that were actually being brought up on charges because they were...
Benoit was part of that.
Yeah, Benoit was part of that. Because it was
Steroids.
It was steroids, and there was a Florida...
Lex Luger.
There was a Florida pharmacy that was supplying all of these wrestlers all of these drugs.
Yeah, he was prescribing them drugs unseen. They didn't even have to come in. They just call them, and he would prescribe
just
them.
send them a script.
Yep.
Electronically,
yeah.
whatever.
So, and you know that was a that was a huge scandal that kind of segued out out of the other.
Well,
drug
after
scandals.
the whole Benoit thing, man, the
wellness, their wellness,
policy changed. I mean,
Yeah.
they claimed
you
that
couldn't
they
take a
changed it after
Tylenol
the
without permission.
after the steroid scandal. They claimed that they kind of they're much more stringent, but it wasn't.
there's
really.
there's guys that got away with stuff.
Yeah, but Benoit incident.
Changed it.
That was a whole
It did.
difference.
But again,
different
the
scenario.
impact, and also it caused Vince McMahon to stop an angle on TV where he had himself exploded in a limousine where they were going to act like he died.
Yeah.
He had to come out of character that very next Monday night.
Yeah.
And and they didn't know what had happened at that time. So they did a Chris Benoit tribute show. And then you got Nancy Grace,
The very next
Bill
night.
O'Reilly, all those guys, chump stains that are on the the CNN or whatever.
Yeah,
the
some
hell
of those
they're
like
on.
Nancy Grace, she was reporting things that were false.
She was
Like
annoying.
one of the things she said, that led to this
Annoying.
happening was Benoit was so distraught after being released from the Four Horsemen. He hadn't been part of the Four Horsemen for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
What was that there?
My
David
brother-
Wallace, first time watcher. I like to watch. Weed is good, drugs are bad. Okay. Okay.
But Benoit. In fact, on my way to work today, I was listening to a story of Chavo where Chavo was talking about just the kind of the little cryptic phone calls and messages that he got from
During the
Benoit.
weekend, right?
Yeah, during that weekend.
His wife
right up to it.
was killed the first day. He killed his son the second day.
So they believe, yeah.
And the third day he hung himself. That's how they believe it happened.
Right.
But it was fucked or screwed.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and they Chavo said that one of the he said when he was talking to to Benoit, and Benoit, because I guess because Benoit was he was wrestling for the ECW championship
At Vengeance, he was supposed to be at that pay-per-view.
taking on, I believe, CM Punk.
CM Punk. John Morrison last minute was his stand-in. And John
So
Morrison
he was supposed
won.
to be there. So like Chavo, said he'd called them and and like, hey, where you at? And he's like, oh, I missed my flight. I'll get there. And because this was the day before, they were supposed to do a dark show that night and house show, whatever. But he's like, okay, we'll just let him know, and we'll come pick you up.
Right.
And they didn't hear Benoit. And, he's trying to. He said, one of the things when Benoit, he was talking to Benoit. Oh yeah, and then he said Benoit. Right before he hung up, Benoit was like, Chavo. He's like, yeah. He's like, hey man, I love you. He's like, I love you too, Chris. He's like, oh man, I just want you to know, man, I love you. And Chavo thought, he's like, what? That's strange. It just seemed like he was.
Why was he going to say
kind
that?
of forcing that, But and then he got a text. He said he received a text from because he had been trying to call and message, text him and all. He said he got a text from Chris's phone saying, like, oh, the dogs are in such and such a room and the garage door's open. That was all the text said. I was like, what do you say? I thought, okay. I thought maybe, okay, this was like a delay.
Find that?
A delayed text. No, because he was in Houston.
Right.
Yeah.
For the show. No, he was. So he got this. He's like, okay, just thinking maybe, maybe it was an old text that so sometimes text messages get like hung up and you'll get them like a couple days later, whatever.
Right.
So but then he received the exact same text from Nancy's phone. He's like, okay, wait a minute. And then he didn't show up, and then he wasn't answering, phone calls and nothing. So Chavo went to, he said Johnny Ace, which that's John Laurinaitis.
Right.
We the people.
And he was, they told him, and he's like, oh, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah.
What do you mean, Chavo?
What do you mean he's not here? He didn't show up. He's like, he didn't show up. He's not answering phone calls, nothing. They called the Atlanta PD, asked him, this guy, you go check, and then they got, that's when they found out, what had happened. And,
right.
There's a lot of, there are a lot of people who still personally feel and think that Benoit didn't do this, that it was...
I want to.
Someone else did that.
I want to believe that, but at the same token,
because of what you just was talking about, the whole drug thing and people being named, and you're talking about a long-term prison sentence. A long-term prison sentence, is not a good thing. And if you the right person, they're looking, they're facing.
Yeah.
Prison time, and you have information that can put them there.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill you.
It could be.
And
because you're dealing with
an accident.
You're dealing with because when they got the drugs and all stuff, they weren't dealing with good, upstanding people. This is.
It could have been. It could have been.
It is speculated and believed by many that is what happened.
But then why didn't the others get touched?
Well, we got,
you know what I'm saying? Like Booker T or,
Well, Booker T still to this day denies that he had any part of it.
Well, I'm not saying he did. I was just saying, like, the names.
I'm sure there was more than one person that was, involved with the whole Dino Bravo.
Batista was part of that.
Yeah, the whole Dino Bravo thing. What led to that happened right before his murder. Is there was this shipment had come in that was in this warehouse, and this shipment was supposed to be picked up such and such a time on such and such a day.
Right.
It wasn't. It was like 2 days later before these people finally showed up to pick up the stuff that they were supposed to pick up from this warehouse.
Right.
And when they got there, cops were there.
Yeah.
So and it was the amount of money that it was like $400,000 worth of stuff. In 1993, $400,000 was a lot more money than it is right now.
So, that goes ahead and wraps up pretty much all of our controversies.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We're way over time.
Yes. So,
only you seem to be concerned.
Dude, it's just, it gets hot in here. It does.
It's going to be nice next week when you ain't here to complain and bitch.
Oh, I know, man. And we're gonna let Tim have one of the nice chairs. Well, I got a third nice chair.
What is that supposed to mean?
You just bitching.
I'm not bitching.
It's so hot.
And count us down.
Oh, I'm tired. I just want to be
3,
over.
2,
1.
Screw
you.